Our next guest sees all this controversy as an opportunity. He is Republican challenger Lacy Lee Johnson. He's hoping to beat Congresswoman Omar in the next election. Lacy Lee, great to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Big question, because there's been a lot about your current Congresswoman in the news since she's taken office. How are the people in the district taking to that news as they find out more about her?
Well, of course, you have those diehard liberal Democrats. They're going to basically support her no matter what she does. Of course, you have Republicans who's we're calling it for what it is, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, socialist, those type of policies. And then you have the swing voters, and I think most of the swing voters are getting very uncomfortable with the fact that they have a person in Congress who's doing those types of things.
Even some of whom voted for her in the last election.
Exactly. I'm quite sure they are, because Minnesota are pretty decent people, and they don't like what they're seeing.
Hi, this is Adam Lashinsky with Fortune in San Francisco. My question is similar to what David was asking. I assume, like many Americans, I wasn't familiar with the dynamics of your district before the Congresswoman was elected. Could you give us a quick analysis of who did vote for her, how she was able to, what her support was in the last election?
Well, her support, once again, Minnesota is a very heavily demographically liberal Democrat district. I think it's about 70% or something, just off the top of my head. And so given the anti-Trump type of campaign that they ran, given that they was making people afraid, lying about eliminating preconditioning the health insurance, she got a vast majority of the votes. I think that's about 700,000 people in our district. I think about 80,000. I've seen numbers from 50,000 to 80,000 as far as the Somali population. But once again, you got the liberal Democrats and you got the minority population where they're constantly reminding them that Republicans are racist and bigots and stuff. And
are you a racist?
Well, no, I'm not.
Because you're a Republican.
Yeah, well, I know. And that's one of the reasons I'm running, because it's going to be hard to use that strategy on me. And you're going to be forced to talk about issues and what your solutions are, because one of the problems that's happened, and the reason these problems go on for decades and decades, because the Democrats have figured out a simple formula: just bring up race and get people to vote, and sexism, and all the other buzzwords. We don't have to talk about issues. We just appeal to your emotion. You vote for us, and then we go away for 4 or 5 years until the next election, and nothing ever changes. So that's...
And they've gotten a lot of traction doing that, by the way. I look at you making this kind of a challenge, like somebody trying to challenge AOC here.
Right.
But what you're trying to do, at least in your campaign video, speaking out to your base and trying to be elected, you talk about values, you talk about diligence, you talk about personal responsibility.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about the platform and how it's so anti what Ilhan Omar is representing.
Yeah. Once again, it's an issues-focused platform and solution-focused. And I look at it like the issues that I look at is family first and foremost, and especially in the district that that I live in, the family has been just torn apart. And if we think we're going to get a handle on any of these issues facing these communities, we're going to have to talk family. The other thing is education. When you look at the educational results within our districts and things like that, it's just horrible. There's achievement gaps. And by the way, whenever you look at any of these issues, whether it's at the state level, or city level, or district level, Democrats are normally in charge. And I've just come to the conclusion, as long as they are in charge, these issues are going to exist, and we need to do something about it. So we got family, we got education, and we got economics. A lot of the issues that we want to place on race or whatever and have race distract us is really economical issues. And so I've been talking about going with government, get rid of the government-based programs, not get rid of them, phase them out, and focus more on for-profit type of businesses.
And we should mention, by the way, you're a businessman. You're a computer engineer.
And I deal with data and logic and things like that, and not so much with emotions. And I think if we're going to solve some of these problems, we have to look at them from that standpoint. And then there's also what I call a spiritual component, and it's not necessarily religion. It's more like I'm a part of a bigger whole. I'm a part of a family. I'm a part of a community. I'm a part of a state. It's not just about me, and start looking at it from that standpoint. And so those are the type of things that I'm talking about within our district as far as issues. Now, once again, as an engineer, and one of the issues I have with the Democratic Party, when they look at solving issues in our community, they don't look at the human capital. They look at us as poor victims, and they pity us. No, we're not poor victims. We got Bill Gates in our community. We got Stephen Jobs in our community. And once again, if you start looking at us like that, then you'll come up with different solutions. But once again, all their solution is based on the fact that they think we can't do what they did.
You got a great message. Lacy Lee Johnson, we got to leave it at that because it takes a while to sort of put out your platform there, but it's a strong one.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very strong. We thank you very much for being here.
And I'm dedicated to making a difference.
Please come back and see us again.
Okay.
Lacy Lee Johnson.